All right, on this episode for NBA SuperCoach, we're talking centres. We're talking the big men. We're talking about boards and blocks. Plenty of value. There's a top scorer in the game in this position. We'll talk about Jokic. We'll talk about plenty of pods that you can pick from as well. Let's get into it. G'day everybody, welcome back to the Ball Logic NBA SuperCoach podcast. I'm your host Braino. I'm joined by Mattrix and Horse in the studio. Horse, how you been, mate? You're a busy man these days. Your face is everywhere, all over the Insight podcasts, and I hear you're now dabbling in a bit of cricket.
Yes, I am. So for those that love their cricket, I have taken on a grade coaching position in Central Victoria. So keen to get stuck in it. We start this Saturday. So, yeah, hopefully we go through undefeated and win a flag and drink heaps of beers.
Coach Horse, Super Coach Horse, some would call you. We've also got Super Coach Mattrix. Mate, you're obviously coming red hot off the Point Guard podcast. We record a couple back-to-back, but centre is a position that you're probably going to be loading up on the most, considering our Point Guard conversation if you're going quite cheap. So I'm sure you're frothing at the mouth for this one.
Yeah, I'm hot and heavy when it comes to these guys. I just think the scoring system is so good for power forwards and centers, just because you just get a higher percentage from closer to the basket. Let's do some easy math. They might be shit at some free throws on occasion because that's too far away from the basket, and they just generally get less turnovers. So I just think that the SuperCoach scoring is very favourable to the big men. So that's where I'm dabbling. I always got taught to fish where the fish were.
Yeah, that's a good little quote there. It's used a fair bit throughout the footy season, that's for sure. But guys, before we jump into this centres, first of all, we will be talking about players that are either centre only or centre is their first position in the SuperCoach app. So we'll be leaving those PF/Cs for another episode, the Giannis's and that of the like. So stay tuned for the power forwards episode if you want to hear about Giannis and those guys. But yeah, centres only or centre first in the app. Guys, hit the subscribe button if you like the content and you want to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Hit that bell, give us a thumbs up as well. Horse would like to call it the triple banger, I refuse. So we'll keep that for Horse's episodes. But make sure that you hit the hype button as well, guys, on YouTube. Follow, review, do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no triple bangers tonight. We'll leave that for you, Mick.
But also, if you want to listen to Matrix's fishing adventures, because he only fishes where the fish are, then click like below as well. Give us a bit of a hype.
Yeah. We're going to find a Rex Hunt reference there somewhere.
I'm not going to make any jokes about Patreons and triple bangers. I'll just let the fans at home make that up in their own heads. So.
Speaking of, good segue into Patreon, guys. You can become a Patreon subscriber, less than $10 a month, $2.50 a week. It's like a third of a bloody coffee. So, 30 a coffee every single week to get our thoughts. Access to Q&As will be coming a bit closer to the season as well. We'll do a live Q&A, answer all your questions for trades and everything every week. You also get full access to the schedule episode that we just dropped. Brody and myself dropped that as a deep dive on the first 8 weeks of the NBA SuperCoach schedule. So you can get that inside Patreon only. That won't be going up on YouTube, Spotify or Apple. So jump in there, become a subscriber, get access to all of that and plenty more. Let's dive into the centers. We'll start with the big dog. The horse racing specialist himself, the man who actually hates basketball, Nikola Jokic, multiple MVP. Just ironic, isn't it, that the best bloke in the league, Horse, just doesn't really like the sport that much. When he won a NBA championship 2 years ago for Denver, he said, it feels good, and now we can all go home, was the quote. But yet when his horse won a race a couple of weeks ago, it was all over social media. He was crying, hugging the jockey after the race. What am I missing here? Is this good enough to buy him in your SuperCoach team?
Oh, it absolutely is. If he loves a horse, like me, then you've got to have him in your SuperCoach side. So with Nikola Jokic, you're talking about perhaps the best fantasy player, whether you're talking 9-cat or points value, NBA SuperCoach points that we have. So schedule aside, so we'll put the schedule aside first. If every team played the same amount of games week in, week out, this guy would be near on 100% owned. So depending on the schedule, I believe they've got a 2-game week to start with, and then they've got a flurry of 4s and what have you. So whether you start with him or whether you keep money in the bank so then you can trade him in week 2. Pretty difficult to juggle that one, Matrix.
I just can't see Jokic being ever better than he is today. Like, honestly, like, the usage is right up here. As he gets older, they're probably just going to have to manage him. Like, I'm not sure we'll ever see a $30 million SuperCoach player. We might on a sensational run, but I just don't think you can get much better than he is today. The schedule starts off with a 2, so I'm drawing a line through him straight away. Honestly, on 3-game weeks, if you've paid up for this guy, probably better than most guys in a 4-game week. A really safe captaincy option all year. You're going to want him at some stage, but I think that he might hit 24 mil during the season and you can get him as a bit of a discount and get him later on. I can't squeeze him into my team at the moment.
The sacrifice you're making is the captaincy option that is automatic every week. And for the most part, people that own Jokic, 36% own Jokic at the moment at centre. He's the most owned centre in the game. He is an automatic captaincy option even on a 2-game week. Realistically, you could probably captain him in week 1. And he could outscore most of the guys on 3-game weeks to start. No one plays a 4-gamer in the first round. So I don't hate it. I'm just looking at it going, and Matty hit the nail on the head. Value-wise, he won't make money. And do I really want to... You pay up. It's like the Matt Short argument from last BBL season. You pay up for the best player in the game, and he very well could score at 28 mil. But can you get a 14 mil guy and a 15 mil guy that outscore him together for that same price? That's the question you need to ask, and I think you can. There's plenty of value across the board here that I think can definitely outdo their initial cost or the initial price. So that's probably the direction I'm going. And also the 2-game week. I'll target him when things open up a little bit for Denver. Now, we'll skip over a couple of guys. We won't talk about Giannis in this show. We'll go straight to Wemby, who is the second most owned centre, we'll call him, pure centre, at 24% owned, 21.8 million. Definitely a preferred option for myself over Jokic. I think he could match the kind of numbers that Jokic puts up. I think when we look at Wemby and look at Wemby's stats, he can score... he had 3.8 blocks per game last year. That is just insane numbers. No one comes even close to that. So he makes up in blocks what he loses in assists to Jokic. And then you see the other stats are pretty much exactly the same or pretty close to it. Wemby's season got cut short last year as well, so he was just starting to come good. So, yeah, I really do like Wemby as a starting option, and 7 mil cheaper to Jokic. You can do a lot of good things with 7 million across his squad. The Spurs start with 3-game weeks in a row. So it's a little bit of an awkward schedule, Horse. Where's your head at with Wemby over Jokic? How are you playing all that?
Yeah, I like Wemby. As you said, he started to come into his own before the DVT last year and ended up sitting out the rest of the year. So when you're talking Big Vic, you're getting points, you're getting boards, but those stocks, the steals and the blocks, averaging over 5, both of them combined per game, that's just money for Jam, isn't it? And you make it sound almost bad that he's got a 3-game, 3 weeks in a row schedule to start with, but it's not the worst. So given the numbers that he can pump out, and as you said, nearly 7 million cheaper, nearly 7 million cheaper than Jokic, is this the way people pivot in order to save money to upgrade elsewhere in their squad?
I think it is. Matty, what are your thoughts quickly before we move on to the next one? Wemby is an absolute alien. He's a freak. How are you looking at him this year?
It's only the schedule, and I know that you covered the schedule, chat, that wears me off a little bit. And like Horse said, it's not bad. It's just 3-3-3, but just teams that have a better schedule. You go to Golden State, there's not a center that you want to touch. But you have a look at Memphis. Again, there's not a center that you want to touch. But it is down in Dallas where there's some people that I prefer at the same sort of schedule that we won't talk about this, that you just get an extra 2 games in that first 3 weeks. I will own Wemby. His schedule opens up absolutely elite later on. So I 100% will own Wemby. And you talk about, Jokic can't get any better. Victor Wembanyama, is just a kid at this stage. If anyone can probably hit 30 mil, it's probably this guy. So yeah, it's just abuse the schedule. It's probably a captaincy week 1, to be honest. There's there's no 4-game weeks in week 1. So, yeah, I can't talk you out of Victor. I don't think I'll be going that way at this stage, but it's only 3-3-3 that scares me off. Just getting an extra 2 games, getting the runs on the board early, is probably where I'm gonna target, and I will get him just when he goes on that run of 4s through the middle of the season.
Yeah, and there's also some really nice little cheaper options that you can pick up at centre that we'll talk about very soon that I think could probably, in terms of value or points per dollar, could probably exceed these guys to start the season. But yeah, you can't go wrong with Wemby. I won't talk anybody out of starting with Wemby. Alex Sarr, I'll talk you out of starting with him. 10% owned. I mean, this is a guy who is priced at a 16 at the moment. Last year, he shot sub 400 from the field, which is like generationally poor. He's a great blocks guy, don't get me wrong. Stocks are decent. I'm just looking for... He's also on a bad team, and I think we probably need to put some stock in the fact that Washington aren't going to get any better this year. If anything, I think they get worse. So for me, I'm looking at it and I'm a little bit concerned. And I know, Sarr's going to be the guy and all that kind of stuff. I'm just a little bit worried that maybe the upside and what I'm paying for 10 mil won't necessarily get me what I'm looking for. There's a couple of guys we'll talk about that I think can exceed that. Matty, you first, mate. I'll throw to you. Alex Sarr, what are your thoughts on him? You've obviously watched a lot of NBL over the last season. You saw a lot of him in Perth. What do you reckon?
Yeah, and he was a really high draft pick in the worst draft that I can remember. Look, he's a great player, and I think his ceiling is maybe a starter on a really good team, but right now it's just a role player on a good team. And when it comes to a bad team, his usage is going to be up. But when you shoot as badly as this, you've just got so many negatives. And this being an Australian app, I think Alex Sarr is a name that a lot of people know over here. So, I think you're just getting that bias. I think out in fantasy land, which we touch a little bit, whether it be points leagues or 9-cat leagues, this guy's a guy that you take outside of the top 100. So everyone should just err with caution if they want to start with Alex Sarr. I'd just recommend just having a look at a couple of games. And look, there's so many games in the NBA. So when it comes to SuperCoach, it's not humanly possible if you have a normal job in Australia to go and watch every single game. I just think that you need to just look at his stats over the first couple of weeks, and I can almost guarantee that you won't have this guy come week 3.
Yeah, I agree. Horse, obviously, to not kind of, pile on Alex Sarr, we'll move on to Alperen Şengün. We can pile on him if you're not overly keen. 16.36 million.
Can I have my bit to say on Alex Sarr?
Okay, yeah, go. If you've got something to say, go for it.
Yeah, nothing. Move on.
No good. Şengün, though. Talk to us about Şengün. He's 8% owned at the moment, 26.3 average from last year. 16 mil, it's a pretty penny to pay for Şengün, who now has Kevin Durant, who's going to drain some usage from this squad. He's also got Steven Adams, and they've signed Clint Capella in Houston. How do you feel about him?
Not as bad as Alex Sarr, but still not a great starting pick for our NBA SuperCoach teams to start the year especially. So you got KD coming in. Yes, Van Vliet is out for the year with the ACL, and good luck to that man and his recovery. But you're basically removing Van Vliet and Jalen Green, and you're bringing in Kevin Durant. So while that doesn't sound like too much, and you think, one player replacing 2, you're bringing in someone who gets boards. You bring in someone that likes the easy rebounds. It's taking away from Şengün. But Kevin Durant, I feel like a lot of the usage is going to be in and around him. And while Şengün is an up-and-coming center in the NBA, and I think he's going to be a very good player in time, to start the year, I'm not so sure. And for me, Houston have the worst schedule in the first 8 weeks with 3 2-game weeks, Mattrix.
Yeah, and look, he's a good player, and I think if I look for reasons why Alex Sarr is so owned, it's because he's Australian. And I still think he's a better pick than this guy at $16 million, because you can just spend $16 million anywhere. You can get like a mediocre house in Sydney for that. But at $16 million, I think there's just a recency bias with the fact that we just watched this FIBA tournament and this guy just absolutely tore up. But yeah, did he tear up against the best of the best in the Eurobasket? Look, it was an elite competition. But yeah, this team he played on was definitely no Houston. It definitely didn't have Kevin Durant. Just draw a line through him. I'm drawing a line through him for cat leagues and point leagues as well. Other people are taking him higher. Just the fact that we're talking about him this early in the podcast means that, yeah, it's just not the right spot for him.
And I mean, look, let's take him aside, right? Let's say he's a great option. 2-3, 4-3, 2-3. It's yuck. The first 6 weeks, I'm not touching a Houston player on field. They have to be on my bench if I'm going to pick one. And we talked about Reed Shepherd in the point guard episode. He's probably the only guy that I'll be looking at Houston. Even Amen Thompson, who I think is going to be huge this year, I won't be touching him to start the year just based on this schedule. So, yeah, that probably sums up Şengün. Now we've heard of Duffman. What about Huffman? 7% owned. He's only 5.44 million, Matty. 8.8 average he's priced at from last season. We saw what he did in Memphis. Your boys, I'm sure you got a good look at Jay Huff last year in Memphis. He's in Indiana. He's likely getting the starting role now. Honestly, I reckon he's a very, very easy bench center starting pick in SuperCoach.
Yeah, it doesn't get much easier than this. There's just that room to grow. Jackson has been as somebody that holds Jackson in dynasty drafts, he's not that guy. Jay Huff probably isn't that guy either. He's probably just a bridging gap for Indiana. But yeah, I think I get why he's been one of your my guys and why you're taking him late in our real fantasy drafts is just he does have that upside. He did have a real uptick in plus 30-minute games when it come from Memphis and played himself into a decent contract and probably come into Memphis as a two-way, more of a G League player and played himself into a contract. There's upside. There is, he's priced on all the games that he played last year, and there was a lot of games where he just went on for 1 or 2 minutes. That's where we're going to see the growth and a genuine cash cow at 5.4 mil.
How do you see the Jackson-Huff split, Horse? Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if we see 26-24, 26-22 or 24-24 straight down the middle. I think there's still enough value for either of them potentially at 5 to 6 mil.
Oh, there absolutely is. And you say that he's priced at an 8. 40 games last year he scored in double figures, so automatically his price is going to go up regardless. And he's in for a massive bump in minutes. He could very well start as the center at Indiana this year. So when you're looking at someone like Jay Huff, it's almost like if you don't pick him, you're trying to outthink the room with how much money this man could make early on in the season. Yep. Very good shout.
Derek Queen. Hang on, where's the soundbite? We haven't played a soundbite yet this year, but I do have a very specific one for him. Matty, while I find it, talk to us about Derek Queen and the fit in New Orleans.
Yeah, I actually think he still might be injured to start the year as well. I'm just not high on him. Probably not going to play. Again, when I look for reasons why he might be highly owned, the Pelicans are playing over here. I don't know. He's got a cool name. Look, I don't know. I don't know why this guy is owned at the moment. I'm not touching him with my Queen poll, so.
I don't have the soundbite here for this, so I'm going to leave this for another one.
It's going to be a no from me, dog.
That's the one.
Eat shit, Derek.
Yeah, not each. No. Trust me, if we want to get some fucking some Step Brothers quotes out, we absolutely can. But it won't be on this podcast, sadly. But yeah, Derek Queen, 7% owned. Do not pick Derek Queen to start the season. Also, Horse, 6% owned. Xavier Tillman is 6% owned, which is just nuts.
Respect. Disrespect.
Look, I know Matty would get a bit upset about us talking about X like this, but 3.65 million at Boston as a backup center who probably plays, he'd be lucky to play 10, 12 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. No, just no.
No, I would rather sit down and watch a full Memphis Grizzlies game than play this guy.
You're a Hornets fan, so you can just delete that.
Fake Hornets fan.
Fake Hornets fan.
But no, I do see X playing on matchups, but you're right. He's probably going to play 12 minutes a night to start the year. X does have that dog in him, and given the opportunity, yeah, I do get it. But look, they went and got, what was it, Quita? They went and got some guys that I think will play above him. So I think matchup wise, when they have those stretch centers on, like obviously the coach doesn't try to lose when you're in Boston. He is a really good matchup and played some meaningful minutes in Memphis when it did come to some finals a few years back. I like Tillman as an option, but yeah, just looking at that depth chart, I think he's about the third guy there. So you're probably better off with a Jalen Williams at the same price. So which we'll talk about in depth in our Power Forward podcast.
We've got 5 guys we want to move through pretty quickly, and we'll bring you some one pot each that we like that are outside of this top 3%. So Yang Han Sen will be a good player, and I think it will be very relevant come the back end of the season for Portland. I just don't see where there's any relevance to him to start the year. But yeah, keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him if we see any injuries. There's a good chance if he can find a pathway to minutes, he will be very relevant. Chet Holmgren, though, $14 million to start the year. People are obviously banking on a bit of an uptick for him. I just don't see where it comes from, Matty. Like, nothing's changed in OKC. Isaiah Hartenstein's now fit. I don't see there being any sort of change in role. It's pretty much what it says on the tin at about that 14 to 16 million mark for Chet for me. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I just don't see growth. They're going to try and replicate the season that they had, and everybody's priced at the season that they had. Look, I like Chet, and again, the schedule allows him to play the most amount of games very early. So can I talk you out of him? Probably not, just because of the sheer number of games. If I'm spending that sort of money, I want $3 million on top of all the points that I'm going to be getting when it comes and treating him like a cash cow when I trade him out later on. And you're just not going to get that from OKC players. But guys that have Chet early on in the year, I think will be high up in the rankings. But, I'm playing the long game. I want to become first overall when it comes to this. I'm not so worried about the points earlier on in the year. I just need to build that kitty so that, I'm deciding between, Jokic and Giannis and Wemby and all these guys come later on in the year.
For sure.
Carmen Malak from the Phoenix Suns. Now, we would have been super high on him at the draft. Pretty excited about the fact they just drafted a young centre that has plenty of talent, and then they went and signed Mark Williams the night after the draft. Horse, obviously that kind of puts Malak into a bench centre role for the most part. I think he probably plays 15 to 18 minutes a night. Mark Williams, though, definitely prone to an injury, isn't he? So I think that's the time when we go, it's time for Carmen to come into our team when Mark Williams goes down.
You shouted out the Charlotte Hornets before, Mattrix. They've got both the ex-Charlotte Hornets centers there in Mark Williams and Nick Richards. Where does Malak fit in? It depends. His offensive game is pretty raw. Defensively, he's pretty good, help side blocks and all that sort of jazz. But, yeah, probably doesn't play the minutes early on for us to get the cash out of him that we need to upgrade.
Yeah, I think he's already better than Nick Richards. But, yeah, I don't know, flip a coin. It's heads. Mark Williams is healthy this day. There's going to be another half the season where he's not. So, let's just look at him there.
Yep. And Jaren Jackson Jr. Obviously will be missing the start of the season. So if any of you are in the 4% that own Jaren Jackson Jr., he'll miss at least the first fortnight of the season. You can cool your jets on him and move on to someone else at $14.66 million. Definitely not worth it. And also, speaking of not worth it, $19.77 million Karl Anthony Towns from the New York Knicks. He is 3% owned as well. We talked about Jalen Brunson on the Point Guard podcast, Matty. I'll throw this one to Horse. Same premise. Minutes come back for nearly every Knicks starter, naturally, with no Tom Thibodeau in New York. So you'd think that Cat probably takes a bit of a backward step initially?
Absolutely does. And a healthy Mitch Robinson, bit of a sleeper for me, Mitch Robinson. Maybe not to start in a NBA SuperCoach format, but in your 9-category leagues, I feel like he could be someone that's relevant at the back end of your draft. So a healthy Mitch Robinson means more minutes at the center for Mitch Robinson, which means what? Karl Anthony Towns then moves to the power forward while he's on, or does he get more of a rest to elongate his season and get more games played? So, yeah, probably just a little bit exy for me to start the year.
And New York have 5 3-game weeks in the first 5 weeks. They don't play a 4-game week until week 6. So for me, yes, that's not the end of the world, but I'll be targeting healthier schedules with more 4-game weeks to start the year, especially at that $20 million price point when you can pay an extra $1 million and get Wemby. So, yeah, it's a no from me, dog, for Karl Anthony Towns. Now, well, let's go 1 pot each. We're looking at players that are probably, what are we looking at? Sub 3% owned at the moment? Probably even sub 2 or 1% owned. So we'll give you 1 pot each in the centre position that we like. Horse, we'll throw to you, mate. Who you got first?
I'm going to go with the human stiffy himself, Adem Bona. Why, might you ask? Because he is well and truly a backup centre, but Joel Embiid, we saw the 76ers GM come out during the week and go, we're not putting a time frame on his return. To me, that's alarm bells straight away. He's not going to be ready for the start of the season. So we saw Adem Bona average 2.5 blocks per game, as well as double-digit points and 8 rebounds a game. I feel like at bottom dollar, 1% owned as well, you could make some fairly decent coin there. 7 million. So he went up a bit towards the back end of last year. But that's someone who he could be not a bad shout. I'll shout out some scores from the back end of the year after he became starter. Scored 35, 25, 26, 31, 27, 38, 26, 27, 25. So what's he priced at? 8? 10?
Something like that, and even less.
There's a bit of value there.
Yeah, I think he's priced at even less than that, to be honest. I like it. And look, Embiid. We talk about Andre Drummond being in Philly. I still think that Bona is going to be playing ahead of Drummond. Just based on what he did last year, he was great in the role that he played when Embiid and Drummond were both injured. So, yeah, for me, I like the pick. I just need a little bit more news on Embiid first. I don't want to pick a guy who's going to start every third game. So, that's the only concern for me. Matty, who's your pod, mate?
I want to reference an Australian great when it comes to this, and it's Stephen Bradbury. When you have a look at the Memphis Grizzlies depth chart, you have a look. You've got, mate. You guys are putting me off by laughing so hard. What do you want me to talk about? Basketball players, man? You think we're on a basketball podcast? You've got Zach Edey injured. You've got a debate straight afterwards as to whether Jaren Jackson Jr. or plays his preferred position or has to move over to center. You have a whole discussion about how Brandon Clark's going to play center. Then you see all 3 of these guys get injured. Honestly, like Santi Aldama, my internet's fantastic, so I tried to look at how many minutes he's played at center. Is a much better power forward, even small forward as a stretch. We've seen him play a bit of point forward in the past. I don't think that he can handle the big guys. And when you look at the Australian centre in Jock Landale, they've signed him. He kind of got pushed out of Houston due to Steven Adams coming along. He's an NBA quality centre. And he is going to get his chance to start the year while all these injuries come out. Do I think he's better than a Jay Huff? Look, probably not. But if for whatever reason you don't believe in Jay Huff, we start to see some injury news or anything, Jock Landale is going to get, honestly, the start, or at least the bulk of the minutes in there at centre. So he's proved that he can play in it at the highest level. I'm excited to see how he goes, especially as an Australian. We see a bit of Australian bias on this in some of it, like when we were talking about Alex Sarr and how this guy shouldn't be owned. Maybe we should look at our own when it comes to Jock Landale.
I like it. I like Jock Landale as a pick. And looking at Memphis' schedule to start, it's 3-4-4. So, we know that Memphis have been absolutely putrid when it comes to injury reporting over the last few years. So, they say that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be out for 6 weeks. They say that Zach Edey 6 to 9 weeks. Brandon Clark 6+. He's going to be reevaluated in 6 weeks. Like, tell me that isn't vague as all shit. Like, I think that there is a real world where Jock Landale could be the starting centre for the first month. for the Memphis Grizzlies. So that's going to be enough to make some cash at his price. My guy at the moment, and he is a bit of a my guy. I feel like I'm always kind of leaning towards him in drafts around that kind of 80 to 90 mark, and it's Donovan Clingan for the Portland Trail Blazers. He's only 1% owned at the moment, priced at a 16. He's 9.8 million, just shy of that 10 million mark. He's actually in my team at the moment as my starting centre. Now, that's how highly I think of him. I think he is in for a really big year. I think he takes another step forward. I was looking at when he started getting some reliable minutes, and that was probably what it looks like week 16 in the SuperCoach last year. More than 80% of his games, he exceeded his average that he's priced at of 16. So we're talking about a guy who can put up 37 points per game, 22, 28, 33, 22, 21, 32. The last 6 games that he played, he went 24 plus. So there's automatically, if he can put up those normal starter minutes, which we think he will get, he is going to be putting up 8 points of value just straight off the rip at 10 mil. Now, this isn't a guy that's going to match Jokic. He's not going to match the top centers, but I tell you what, he's going to put up $15 million worth of value to start the season. And, you know, big rebounder, big shot blocker, probably a poor free throw shooter, but great from the field. There's a lot to like about Donovan Clingan in a pretty low usage role, to be fair, too. So he's not going to, you know, put up a heaps of shots on volume and all that kind of stuff. He's not going to hurt you with negatives across the squad too much. I'm actually a really big fan of going quite cheap at centre itself and then loading up at power forward with those duels. And Donovan Clingan's a guy that you can definitely confidently play as a starter in your team. Looking at Portland's schedule, they start with 3 threes, which is fine, but then they go 3 fours after that in the next month. So pretty high on Donovan Clingan. Horse, any thoughts?
I love it. I think he's going to be great. 7'2", good field goal percentage around the rim, gets blocks, gets rebounds. He's going to get first crack in Portland. I don't think I've been this excited for a Portland player since Brandon Roy was running around.
Yeah, I mean, Young Henson is probably going to be the backup centre there, but that's it. They're going to rely on a rookie to play 15 minutes. Clingan wheels up 30, 32, 33 minutes a night.
For sure.
And I did a bit of a deep dive in games above 30 minutes that he played without 8, and albeit it was only an 8-game sample size, it was 11 points, 14 rebounds, and 3.4 blocks. That's let me do quick math, a fuck ton more than 9 mil.
Yeah, good. Yeah, 11 points. What's that? 25, and then 3.5 blocks is what? Another 6 points. So we're looking at a 32-point scorer for 9 mil. Take away maybe a couple of negatives per game. So yeah, lots of like of Donovan Clingan. Yeah. Fuckload is the math, the correct math. That'll do us for centre. Obviously, we've managed to somehow talk for about half an hour about centres when you can only fill 2 spots. So there'll be a lot more relevance when we talk about the power forward position, because there's a lot of power forward centres that we didn't talk about in this episode that will be very relevant in your power forward slot for NBA SuperCoach. But guys, hit the subscribe, the like, give it a thumbs up, give it a hype on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, Apple. Give us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate that. It helps us. All of those things help us grow the show, help us get out to more ears and more eyes. So we would really appreciate that. And of course, if you want more from us, get into Patreon. It costs less than $10 a month, less than $2.50 a week. You can get in there, and the link is in the description below to get full access to us, Q&As, and tons more content. Boys, that'll do us for centre. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you for the next episode. 3 more positions to go. They'll be coming out over the next week or so. Stay tuned. Catch you then.
Cheers.